All right, so we're recording. Hello, it's lovely to see so many of you this evening. Thank you very much for coming to speak to the lovely Katja, who is our guest tonight on this Lovely People webinar. So as I said, I like it to be interactive. If people want to join in, if people want to ask questions, please feel free to do so. But to start off with, I will get Katja, if she doesn't mind, to introduce herself and to tell us a little bit about well, anything you want to, anything that's relevant for you about how you came across the principles, what difference it's made. Just kind of, if we start having a little bit of a conversation and see where it goes. Go.
Okay. Where to start? Oh man. Well, it's nearly 7 years ago that I came across the principles, and when I did, I was very poorly in every way, really. Mentally, emotionally, but also physically. I had lots of health issues that I was battling with, and I didn't have a good quality of life. Was in a lot of pain, had no energy, and was really worried that I could never be well again, because, you know, as long as my body wasn't well, I didn't think I could be well. So when I came across the principles, first of all, I just had a huge shift somehow in my emotional state, mental state, and suddenly the whole life looked different to me, but I was still having lots of pains. And then at some point, I noticed that something was changing there, and that's when I started having lots of conversations with Mick Tomlinson. Some of you might know him. We started having conversations together, and we recorded lots of webinars, and lots of our subjects were around 3 principles and health. And through the years, I was very lucky that all my physical health issues have cleared up. And I think that it's only because I created so much less stress around my life, and so much less worry about what was going on in my body, that at the end everything started to recover. And so I'm just normal now. Like, you know, I get the odd cold and muscle aching when I overdo the dancing, but I'm not suffering from the pain anymore that I used to have. Was there a problem with my microphone?
No, it's somebody has asked me for the link, so I'm just.
What are your recordings? Okay. Yes, so that we can send out a link later. There's a resource where all the webinars and all the recordings we've done can be watched. It's a website called itsallhealing.com, but we can send out the link later.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. So is that enough as a summary, or do you want me to talk a little more about the story?
Sorry about that. I was distracted. Somebody was asking for the link, so I just sent them the link because they want to join us on the webinar. I mean, me and you, we have been friends for quite a long time. It's Katja and I met, probably that must have been 5, 6 years ago, mustn't it? And
yeah, 6 years, I'd say. Yeah.
And Katja and I have kept up. We speak pretty much every week, don't we? We've we help mentor each other in a way, really, don't we? We've kept up a good friendship and spoken. And it's been amazing for me to watch your transformation, to see the difference in you. Because when I first met you, you often used to, you know, we would talk for a little bit and then you would go and lie down because you wouldn't feel very well or something. You know, you would have those times when you didn't feel very well or weren't capable of kind of being in a long conversation of that sort of thing. And to see the difference in you, you're so much more physically fit and healthy. And I know a lot of the times when people, the principles, we talk an awful lot about you know, the psychological side and that sort of thing, but it's been amazing to me to see the physical difference in you. So what do you kind of touched on it a little bit and sort of said about the stress. And I know one of the things that there's a friend of mine who I know will watch this recording, and she struggles and suffers with fibromyalgia. Can you tell us a little bit about what you have seen around that? Because was it true, were you diagnosed with that?
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah, fibromyalgia is really something they diagnose you with when they don't know why you're in pain. And there's some trigger points in the body, then they press them, and if there's a certain amount of those points being painful when they press it, they say, oh, then that's a fibromyalgia syndrome. And it comes with all sorts of weird aches and pains, and I had it in my joints and my muscles, and the whole skin was just like, sometimes when I had the bed cover on me, it would just be painful. So you can't do much without your muscles, your joints, and your skin, you know, everything is painful. And, you know, if somebody just sort of buffed me like that and wanted to sort of play with me, my husband was quite playful, and I was said, oh, ow, ow, everything hurt, like every little touch, and lots of bruises I had, and lots of just pain, which you can't put your finger on. And I lived like that for 7 years, struggling to find a solution. In that time, I tried everything really, you know, and I came across things and alternative medicine that helped me to sort of relieve the symptoms and to help me survive, but it was still a struggle. And so I'm you know, I'm convinced now, because it's all cleared up, that there was no physical reason, but that it was all mental stress that I was buying into and making worse through, you know, not knowing how the principles work inside of me. And I had one belief, and the belief was, I can only be well once I'm healthy again. And that was just like a huge, big misunderstanding. So when I first came across the principles, I still had the pain.
Yeah.
And yes, I had come across a guy who did like some lymphatic drainage, very, very deep tissue massage with me, and it helped me. But when I look back, I could see that I was always recreating the issue by watching out for the symptoms. You know, I often woke up in the morning thinking, oh, where's my pain? You know, I don't know if you ever noticed that really early in the morning when you wake up, you got a moment of clarity before all the chatter comes back in again. And in those moments, I often was free of pain, not realizing that that was my real me. That was me beyond the conditioning, beyond the memories of my condition as well. And so when I then sort of woke up, I was looking for, oh, where's my pain? And there it was, because the creation of the experience that I was expecting was creating it for me again. So I have over and over again recreated as if I still had a problem. And another thing was that I had identified with being a sick person. So I saw myself as a sick person, so I wouldn't be doing things like when a friend called me and said, would you want to go for a walk with me? And I'd say, oh, I don't know if I can, you know. I wouldn't be normal, as in saying, yeah, of course, you know. I would consider I can't because I'm sick. And what I forgot and what I didn't see was that there was fluctuations in my condition. There was days where I was just normal. There was days where I was really bad. But because I had identified with being sick, I would be seeing myself as not capable of doing things. And then I had all sorts of regimes. Like I had all sorts of things that I would be doing as for how I would need to cope with, you know, with this physical issue and all the things I had to do. I had a long list every day, like the positive affirmations, the meditation. Oh my God, I did a whole drama around food. You know, I had so many rules. You can't believe how I lived with all those rules. And no wonder that my mind wasn't clear. So I had a lot of trying to do my best to get healthy again, because that was my belief. I wouldn't be well until I'm healthy again. And then my marriage broke because my husband just simply had enough of me. He just put me out and said, no, I don't want to live like this anymore. And I wasn't particularly helpful around him, because it was all his fault, and everything was his fault. He couldn't do anything right, and I was in a pretty low place. And you know what we're like when we're in a low place. We're really horrible to live with. So I wasn't very pleasant, a pleasant wife to my husband. So he had enough, and now suddenly I was sick. I was on my own. I had to sort of earn a living, and I had to deal for my health. And I was just like, all was really too much. But then I came across the principles, and I don't know, I never connected it to the physical body in the first place, because all that happened was that I just felt brighter, lighter. I could see how my well-being did not depend on anything outside of myself. And then there was a particular situation, and those of you who know me already know this story, because it was the first time when I really saw that the physical body had something to do with it as well. And by that time, I already had a boyfriend, and I was having a really difficult situation with him, and having a discussion, let's say, on the phone with him. And he said something to me, which sort of really hit home with me. He said to me, "You're not responsible for me. You're only responsible for you." And I was like, "What? Can you say that again?" It was like a huge weight had come off my shoulders. And at that point, I had quite a strong problem with my neck and shoulders. And I've had it for maybe like 6 weeks, 2 months or something like that. And I was really gone from one to the other. And I had a really good network of therapists, but nobody could fix it.
Hang on one sec. This is really bad of me, but I have just realised I haven't plugged my computer in, and it's going to die. I will just carry on. I'll just go.
Go and plug it in. But at that point, I had this pain, and nobody could fix it. And I had sort of put up with it and thought, all right, I'm on painkillers again then, so what? It's just another thing. It'll pass somehow. And then this conversation on the phone came, and I was like instantly relieved from the pain, and it never came back. And I was like, whoa, how did that happen? In the moment when I had this insight that I wasn't responsible, the burden that I was carrying, and I didn't know I was carrying it, came off me. And in the same moment, the physical body had changed. And that was the first time where I was like, whoa, this also works for the body. I couldn't really believe it, how instant and how clear that was. And that was when I started to really look into that, and sort of also ask myself, well, where's your pain? It's not as bad as it was. So there was some instant changes where physical body responded to inside.
Yeah.
Where I could clearly put my finger on which insight was leading to what kind of symptom or change in the body. And then there was some very subtle changes that I don't know how they happened, but fact is my body recovered. And you're right, when you just said I used to have to lay down after a certain amount of talking and all that. I just realized when you said it, and this is why I was sort of smiling, because I wanted to have a rest today, but never got round to it. And so like 5 years ago, I would have not been able to to do this and be present and be rested at this time of the day. I would have had to lay down at least twice a day for rest.
Yeah.
Cope with things that are happening, just normal life things.
I mean, having known you, and known you fairly well, and interacted with you for a long time, as I said, I can see the difference in you. I can remember when you used to say, "Oh no, I can't talk at that time because I need to be resting then," and "Oh no, I can't do this because I need," and yet that never happens now. So that's, it fascinates me, the difference. And I know, like, when I think you were one of the first people that I'd ever met that had fibromyalgia, and I've heard it a lot. I know a lot of people, talk about it now. So I know it's I know quite a few people suffer in this way. So it's really, really interesting for me to talk to you about what was it that kind of shifted around there? What was it that changed for you? Because you actually, in the time that I've known you, as your understanding of the principles has deepened, you actually look, younger. We've known each other for kind of 5-6 years, and yet you look younger and healthier now than when I first met you. So there's something good.
Yeah, and I feel younger. I think when I was in the middle of my health problems, I really felt like 85 years old, and I'm 50 this year, and I've honestly really feel much younger than I did when I was sick, or before I was sick. That's what I mean. I mean, it's like, I think I feel like more like 35 now than when I was really 35. I felt like 85. So it's really reversed, and I'm dancing now, and I love dancing so much. And on Sunday, I've overdone it. I had a workshop of 2.5 hours doing some sort of movement, balance, dance workshop thing. And then I fancied going to the swing dance, which that is really my passion now. I love it. And I had a moment of doubting whether I could do it, but then allowed the car to see if I go or not, and the car drove straight to the dancing. So I had another 2.5 hours of dancing after I've already exercised. And I survived. I mean, without, aching a lot the next day. And I was really tired afterwards. But that to me was like a miracle that I could do that.
I mean, I love to dance, and I go dancing, but I am very tired after. I'm not, I never suffered in pain like that, and yet I'm tired after I've danced for a long time. So I think, our bodies, our physical bodies there is limitations. We can't kind of keep pushing them forever and ever, no matter what. But it's really, I know there's some people on this call that have been around the principles quite a bit, but there's also some people that are fairly new to that. So do you mind kind of outlining a little bit about what these principles are? Because I know even when you've been around this forever, a really long time, I think it's always good to hear what it is they see, how they see the principles, because this understanding that we're pointing people towards around their health and this, it's a very, very simple understanding, but it's infinite. The depth to which we can see it, if that's the right words, is infinite. And I think even when we've heard this a million times before, we can hear something in just when somebody shares what the principles are for them and what they're seeing around that. So would you mind sharing that with us?
Oh, of course, I don't mind. I love doing that. But see, really simply these days, really simply. I mean, as soon as we have an experience, no matter what we're experiencing, whether this is in the emotional, in the mental, in the physical, whatever we experience comes through those 3 principles in action. They're always behind the scenes, whether we know it or not. They are just there. We wouldn't have an experience if we didn't have the principles in action. So to me, it's like there's only one difference, really, is whether we notice or we don't.
Okay.
Because if we notice that those three principles are an action inside of us, we are not up against what we're experiencing, because we know it's just a moment-to-moment experience that comes through the creation of mind, thought, and consciousness in action. And that's just a temporary, personal, moment-to-moment appearance of those creative forces that work inside of us. So if we don't notice, we can be up against a reality, something that feels really real. While if we do notice what's going on, then it's like the metaphor would be like, we've got weather. We got weather, that means it's a creation of illusion that's happening, but we're still having an awareness that we're the sky. We have weather, but we are not the weather. We have weather. Occasionally we don't notice and we're in the middle of it, and it's really snowy and icy and frosty and horrible, or lovely weather. But it's always just an appearance within the sky, and we are the sky. So this is really, really simple, because that doesn't go away. That's always going to be there for us. And with the principles, the way I see it is, there's the potential for a new experience in any moment. That means if I have an experience now, then that's just what's happened already. It's in the past, it's done. And the potential is, and that's the huge potential of mind, is that I can have a new experience and everything looks different. And that is so hopeful to me.
Yeah.
And I actually had a really lovely experience this afternoon. I walked into town. I had to go to sort out my mobile phone contract. And I walked into town, and I wasn't in a particularly good mood. I was feeling quite low and stressed, and I had a very busy mind. I was like,
let me shut the door.
For a moment with that busy mind. And then in the next moment, I suddenly thought, oh, but I can feel my sweet feeling as well. Like, I call it a sweet feeling of the being present and being in the moment and being free of the weather. And I was like, wow, I'm having weather and I'm feeling my sky at the same time. And so in that moment, I noticed how my whole body relaxed. And I noticed how the tension, from between the shoulder blades, it was just gone in that moment, when I was like, look how this can be there both at the same time. Like, you got this going on, this illusionary creation of the three principles in action. At the same time, you got the awareness of who you really are. And to me, that is the freedom. That's the freedom of the three principles, because whatever we can experience can only be that. It can only be that momentary illusion that we're creating innocently through the principles working through us. It's got nothing to do with me, but I am having an experience, and I can wake up to the fact that I do have that. And that's the freedom. Not that I could necessarily change it, but just know that that's all that's happening. That's where, for me, where the power lies.
Yeah, I really see that as well, because, one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of the time when we begin to talk about the principles, and we talk about the principle of thought, and then straight away people go to the idea that, oh, that means we can change our thinking and we can change our experience, and it's up to us to be able to change our experience. And I've seen more and more that actually we can't change our experience, but understanding how our experience is created somehow. And like you said earlier, I have no idea how this works. I don't think it's ours to know how this works. But somehow it is enough that we see that. and something that what I liken it to is last summer my son Josh, he broke his foot, and I took him to the hospital because he broke his toe and very badly broken his toe, and they set all his toe and did everything. And it was kind of while this was going on that I had the realization that the doctors weren't mending his toe. That was kind of just some magic that our body, you know, there's something that happens there that we're not in charge of, we can't control, we don't decide how it happens, doctors don't decide how that happens. And there's kind of, we can create the best conditions, but there's just some kind of magic that happens when bones mend and we become well in those kind of ways. And it was like, it's the same thing, I think. It's like the doctors know that if they stabilized his bone and held it in the right place, that would really help that process. But it was just a process that was going to happen. And it's like when we know how we work, when we look in that direction and we know how, it's like stabilizing ourselves. It's like, you know, all we can do is give ourselves that best chance, and knowing how we work is that best chance. And then we are going to self-right. Our experience is going to change. And that is just a magic that is a part of this system that we have been blessed enough to be born into, that actually there's magic within it that just does things. So I love seeing that it's not about, we're not talking here about controlling anything. We're not saying people should control, and I know we're talking about physical health, and you know, this isn't about blaming people for being poorly and kind of saying, oh, you know, you should know better and not feel ill or anything. It's not, we're not talking about that at all. We're pointing to something deeper than that, really. So,
and, you know, the thing that I find really, really important at this point would be to say that our well-being does not depend on the body healing. I mean, you know, when people come to me and they sort of want to improve their health and all that, the whole thing is always about, you know, I need this body to heal so that I can be okay. It's exactly the other way around. It's like, I mean, even, you know, I've got a client who's got in certain situations a social phobia, and he measures whether or not his understanding of the principles is good enough and successful enough, or whether or not he's having experiences of that kind still or not. And only recently he has seen that he can have those horrible experiences in those situations and be totally okay with it. And that's exactly what was happening for me this afternoon. I was stressed. I was having a busy mind and an uncomfortable feeling. God knows why. I have no idea. And still, I was feeling the okayness that was there at the same time. And I've had it with my body as well. I mean, I get some flu or I had a problem with my tooth that was really bad 2 years ago. And I could see so clearly that despite the fact that that was going on, I was perfectly well. And it might sound strange, but, you know, we can still be grateful for what we have while something is going on that we rather don't want to have. But it could be worse. Like you could be having a broken toe and you could be glad that you didn't break your whole leg. I mean, yeah, so it is a thing of perception, isn't it? It's how you see it. And whenever it is about how we see it, it is the creation of the three principles in the background that gives us that experience. So no matter what's going on, the sense of well-being is always there for us if we look in that direction. And when my tension cleared, I realized that the tension that I was having was the trying to fix the bad feeling. And when I didn't have to do that, the tension went. And I was still having a busy mind. I was still being stressed while I was walking there. And still it didn't matter. And then after a while, I noticed it had all gone altogether, which is then the bonus, but it wasn't really needed in the first place. And this I find so important, because the real breakthrough and the real freedom lies in seeing that no matter what we're experiencing, it's just an appearance of a momentary creation in our mind. It doesn't hold any information about anything on the outside.
Yeah, and I think it's when we don't feel the way we want to feel, or the way we think we should feel, or whatever, I think we are so tempted to change that. And so, you know, we can really buy into that, and it can be so tempting to be like, I don't want to feel like this, I don't like it. And it is, I think when you were describing walking, and you were kind of, you could see your sky as well as your weather. I think that is like the way that I would talk about that, the way that it looks to me like that is, it's kind of like, I do this thing and I say, am I okay even here? And it's almost like this foundation thing that it looks to me that my okayness is always mine. Okayness is just what is. That is just a given. And then life does life. And it's like, sometimes I get into my life so much that I'm like, oh, my okayness has gone. Don't even realize. And then it's kind of like that stop for a minute. Am I okay even here? Is it still here, even with this? And it's never, ever, ever not there. I think it is that recognition. And as soon as we kind of look back in that direction and be, oh yeah, my okayness is there. Like you say, all the weather, all the stuff, whatever it is that's going on can just go on. And that foundation, that sky that we are, that whatever it is that we've got, that never goes anywhere. And I think the principles point us in that direction. They point to that. They show that to us, that actually that's always there. We don't ever lose that. It's not possible to lose that foundation of okayness. I think it is like, and then it seems to me that when we recognize that and begin to see that, that's our best human experience that is available. And what that is, I don't know. And I don't suppose moment to moment we do know. But it's like the knowing of that, somehow within the knowing of that, our best human experience is available, moment to moment, whatever that might be.
I wonder if there is any questions.
I was wondering exactly the same thing. So if anybody would like to ask a question, you can put something in the chat, you can unmute yourself, you can, whatever occurs to you, put your hand up, make a noise.
Me.
Go on then, me.
Can I just talk to you a little bit about some stuff that's been going on for me the last couple of weeks, and then ask you a question related to that?
Of course. Cool.
So, like, basically, over the last couple of weeks, this is something I thought I'd been seeing, and now that I'm seeing it deeper, it's like, oh, you weren't seeing that. And it's just, all I keep hearing everywhere and anything I listen to is that it just doesn't matter what experience you're having, because it's all being created from this truth and this essence that we're all part of. But I just didn't see that. And now, like, I've been extremely up and extremely down in the last couple of weeks. Like, you know, really high and really, really low for me. And it's been, I don't know, it's been eventful. And I can't say it's been good, but there is still that tiny, even if it's tiny some days, the sky and the okayness, I can feel it, like you said, Katja, with your attention today. And there is still a tiny, tiny part of me that can see that. which is huge, I think, compared to where I was before. So it's just been a really good experience the last couple of weeks for all this. But my sort of question is, why is it that we don't want to feel bad and we always want to feel good? If you want to talk to that, that would be cool. I think maybe it's just because we're so used to the worldwide consciousness has been pointing us towards that for years, hasn't it? Like, everybody thinks it's not okay if you're not feeling happy, I guess. So, but yeah, go for it.
That's an interesting question. Really is an interesting question. I mean, I think I see in little children that they don't care what they feel like.
Yeah.
They seem to be crying with all their heart, and the next thing they are laughing again. And then they get upset because mommy took away the lollipop or whatever it is, and then next thing they're hungry. And so they seem to be with whatever is in the moment. They are with that, and they don't, you know, they don't stop themselves crying like, you know, we would as adults, thinking, oh my God, I can't cry here, you know, I shouldn't be crying now, blah, blah, blah. So I think I think that we pick it up somehow in the conditioning that, you know, you should feel good. And we always ask, how are you? You know, everybody wants to hear you're good. and I think that somehow at some point we start to judge that feeling good is good and feeling bad is bad. And we overlook that it's a total misunderstanding and that everything is just human. Full stop. There's no good and bad, and you know, we're gonna go up and down, and we you know, the way I see it is that we are not in charge. We don't get to choose where we are. You know, life's coming through us, and we are just the receivers of that. And I don't say it's all predetermined or anything. I just say that there's a moment-to-moment creation happening through us, and then through our hands, through our words, through all our whatever we can do in the world, our behavior, things will happen. And I don't know. I think that with my experience this afternoon, and you know, many times having insight into the principles, I see that I care less and less what I feel like.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in it as much, because I know it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything about the outside world. And yes, we get sucked into certain subjects that look real again. But I must say that, you know, somehow there's still a little voice that says, well, it can't be your mum. You know, it can't be your mum who's getting on your nerves. It can't be, even if it looks like that. But there is a little, what is it again, you know? What is it again, you know? And so to me, when I notice I'm not feeling so well, or I get under pressure, and it happens every day, you know, I'm not free of that. It happens every day. I get into problems, but I seem to be noticing quicker that it doesn't matter how I feel.
And it seems to pass so much quicker as well, doesn't it? When you really see it, it can just go like that so quickly.
Yeah. And this is why I feel it's so helpful to stay in the conversation as well. I don't know how many times Steps has saved my life, really, you know, because
mine
of what I had forgotten. And this is how it's so valuable to stay in the conversation. Keep reading, keep looking, have a network of people you can talk to.
Yeah, definitely, it's so helpful.
Yeah. So I hope that answered to it at least a little.
Yes, it was wonderful, Katja.
Thank you.
So has anyone else got any questions? Would anyone else like to have a little chat with Katja or ask any questions? It's always good to kind of, answer things that are occurring for you. So if anyone else would like to jump in, you can unmute yourself, or you can ask me to give it a go. Everybody's very quiet tonight. I think you've answered all the questions already, Katja. You've been so efficient and effective.
I can't believe it. Come on, folks. I love questions.
Okay. I don't know if there's an answer, it's just a comment, but it's all the, yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh, God, yeah, I know. And then I thought, okay, there's something I've been avoiding for 2 years now. And instantly, warmth, fear. So it's just an experience, but it's a humiliation. It's all my backstory. I will not do this thing. It's, it's a relationship, family thing. And so it's just a comment, really, but it just comes up so powerfully, it still stops me, even though I can listen to this and go, oh my God, yes, this is so true, this is fab. And yet, this knot gets me so fast. I think it's the what's the word? It's like it's so sneaky. Do you know what I mean? You can have all the I know and all the awareness, but yeah, I just it's still got me. I haven't conquered that one. So I don't know if there's any other comments that can be made about it, because in a way that's just my personal thing. But I just know that fear just runs in there so fast, it catches me unawares and stops me in my tracks. So
the thing is that when I get caught in one of those and I think I know this I know, then I'm sort of up against what my little mind thinks it knows. Because if I really knew, I wouldn't have an issue. It would simply not be there, because it's like a magician's trick. You wouldn't be tricked if you really saw the trick. You wouldn't feel tricked anymore. But I feel tricked. I get, and then it's more like I think I know, or I should know. But really, and I was having this conversation with the guys in school this morning. It's about, the way I see it is, we are consciousness. We are pure consciousness, but we're in a form. So we can't see everything because we're in the form. So if the great mind, like universal mind, the principle of mind, is everything and nothing at the same time, because it's a power, it's a potential, it's not formed yet. When we see a certain amount of what we see through our own consciousness, and as long as I'm alive, I'm going to be a limited amount of consciousness because I'm in a form. So I'm shining a light. I'm shining a light to the extent my consciousness is. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. If it's low, it's just a little light. And when it's higher, it's a little bigger light. And I can see what I can see and what I can understand. But beyond the light that I can shine through my consciousness, there is the dark, and there's the big unknown, there's the potential. So I'm always going to have an edge to where I can see. And where I can't see, all that's missing is just a little higher level of consciousness where I can then see. Because as soon as my light grows, I can see more. So when we have a subject like this, where we sort of know there's something for us to see, all that's required really is just to allow that, yes, we're not seeing it right now, but the potential for the light to grow comes with understanding, comes with raising our level of consciousness, comes with just relaxing into who we really are. I mean, I hope this is clear. It's a little difficult to explain. It's like, you know, we're this little torch, and then we're growing a bit more because we've got more understanding, but we're still going to have lots more to see. And that's going to be forever, because this universal mind is infinite. So it doesn't matter how big my understanding is, I'm always going to have things around the edges of my light, let's say, where I can't see. And it doesn't matter, because, and you know, when we go tired, our light goes really small, and we don't see what we saw before, and we think, oh, we've forgotten. Have you ever had that before? You felt like, oh, I've forgotten all the things I knew about the principles?
Yes.
And then next thing, you wake up in the morning and you're feeling like, ah, I got it back. It's not that it's gone. It was just that we couldn't see it anymore because our light's gone a little small. But we are the huge big light. We are the infinite light. Just that we are in a form. So we're going to get into areas where we don't quite see it yet. And I think that's normal. And to me, it's like, when I realize that I'm always going to have things where I don't see it, I think I got less judgmental with myself. And so I'm more relaxed about it. And the chances are that my light can just grow, and then suddenly I see it.
Yeah, I think our potential to see something and see something, that it doesn't matter how much you see, it doesn't look to me like our potential to see more, that's no smaller. It's just like that there will infinitely be things for us to see. And I think it is funny how we have our places where we just don't see it, and we don't see it, and we don't see it, and we don't see it. And then one day, you know, I know through our conversations, I know both of us have had an awful long period of time of just not seeing things, and then suddenly, you know, the difference in both of us basically over the time we've been speaking is huge. And so there's that, always that potential. So Deborah, never give up, you know, in any given moment. And we don't know, you know, it could be the next second you have a huge insight around whatever it is, you know, you think you're not seeing. So it's, the potential is always there. And the thing that I kind of often point people towards is that it always looks to me like thought wants to take us in one direction, and the answers or truth or whatever is in the other direction, because we get very taken in by our stories and taken in by, you know, what it is we think we see or think we don't see, or the thing, our mind, this thinking thing that we have is very compelling, isn't it? It's very easy to kind of, and it's also, sometimes it kind of says, yes, I'm consciousness, I'm clarity, I'm this. I'm thinking it is a trickster. We do continue to get tricked. And it's like staying in this conversation is a little way of kind of just continue to look at what's creating, look in the opposite direction to the thinking we're having.
Yeah, Katja reminded me that I've made that into a problem. Like, so what?
Quite.
It's me that's made it. Oh, I should have, you know. Yeah. So I've made it into a problem where it isn't. It's like, hey ho, that's how it is right now. It doesn't matter. And it's just part of my little rule of I should have got it, or I should be doing it right, or whatever my little Deborah rule is. And that's all that's being expressed. So thank you for reminding me that. The boundaries, the little edges. Thank you both.
Oh, pleasure. Yeah.
So has anyone else got any comments or anything they would like to share, or any questions or anything? They're a very quiet group tonight, aren't they, Katja? I think you've just sorted everybody's health problems out across the whole of this webinar. Everybody is feeling really fit and healthy. And is there anything else that you would like to share with us, Katja, about, you know, your insights, things you've seen lately, things that have shifted for you at all?
You know, I think that I mean, the principles are just the one and the simplest and the most fundamental fact that's behind the scenes, like for everything that's going on in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the main message is really keep looking into the direction of how it comes about that we get to experience anything, and that includes the body. I mean, to me, the miracle is that there's some creation going on, and we get to experience life with all the facets of all the potential of all the different experiences that we can have, and look at all the different feelings we can have, and look at all the different stories we can all have. And it's just like magical how all of that can come from one and the same power behind the scenes. And to me, that's a miracle. And what I get to appreciate more and more is all of it. It's like all of it. It's just feeling angry, feeling pain, feeling tired, feeling whatever it is a miracle in itself. Like each one, you know, but without making the difference between the good and bad, then all of them are miraculous. All of them are valuable. All of them have their reasoning. All of them are allowed to be. And all of them mean nothing about what we see on the outside. And nothing can touch us. So we can be angry and enjoy it. You know, we can be sad and enjoy it. And there was a little mini conference I did with the school here in Berlin in November. And as I was doing one little presentation, the subject of my dad dying came up, which is 21 years ago soon. Mm. And so in that moment, all the sadness came over me while I was telling the story, and I was having like watery eyes, and my voice was breaking, and I was having it was really impactful how the emotions was coming in. And guess what happened when afterwards, participants, they came to me and they said that was the most powerful moment when I could allow the emotion to come through, be there for a bit, and then let it go again, because that's what was happening. It came in, it stayed a bit, and then it went. And so that's the 3 principles in action, allowing us to experience something and to perceive the outside through that. And to me, that is a miracle. And I mean, I always show this. Can you see that?
If the only thing people learned was not to be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world. Sydney Banks.
Yes, I got that from the Viva people who organized Viva. They gave us each to the speakers a little sign, and I love that, because to me that is the essence of this understanding, is to know that there's nothing to fear. It's all that's happening.
Yeah.
And that's it, full stop. It's just 3 principles in action, and we get to experience it. And sometimes it's really uncomfortable, and sometimes it's really comfortable. And all of it is just to live it. And that's why we call it life, because it's life living through us, like all those facets. And so keep looking in that direction. It's my invitation always to people, is to keep looking in that direction.
stay in the conversation and keep looking. Yeah, it's because it's a really interesting conversation to be in, and it's been an absolutely brilliant conversation with you tonight. I always love talking to you, Katja. It's always fun. So
it was a pleasure to me, pleasure to me, and I'm happy, if people want to have a chat with me, just reach out. And happy.
I was going to say, if anybody does want to carry on this conversation with you or find out more about what you do or anything, I did put definitely on Facebook, I put a thing on the email that I sent out. I put some information about you. If anybody knows me more than they know you and wants to, I can always put people in contact with you. And yeah, if you want to tell people anything about any contact details, just in case anyone wants to contact you at all.
It's just my name really, is Katja.Symons at gmail.com.
And you're on Facebook, aren't you?
Yeah, or on Facebook, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Mind if people message you on Facebook or anything like that?
No, I don't mind. I love messages.
So if anyone has, we're just about getting to the top of the hour, so we're going to be able to finish up pretty much on time. But has anyone got any questions they would like to ask, anything anyone would like to add, anything anyone else would like to add to this conversation tonight?
Just to say that next week it's Maureen York, or Pocket Maureen as we refer to her.
Oh yeah, I'm not good at that, am I, Beck? Thank you. Yeah, so next week, no one's got any questions for Katja. Next week, our lovely people webinar is going to be the lovely Maureen York. Yes, as when we went to Viva and a few of us were speaking with Maureen, somebody said it would be really great to have Maureen in my pocket, so every time I forgot something she could remind me. So then she became Pocket Maureen, so that's what's behind that. So I think it's really great for everybody to have their own little Pocket 3 Principles person, whoever that happens to be. So we will be talking to the lovely Maureen next week. So has anyone got any questions for Katja before we finish up tonight, before we let her go?
You don't give up, Debbie, do you?
No, because I know afterwards people say, oh, I wish I'd asked this.
Well, I'm hopefully still in the world, so you can pass it through Debbie or contact me directly. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Lots of lovely people, and I hope I can be here again one day.
Oh, I'm sure you will be.